It's a final word, story time, 113. Adam Collins, Jeff Lemon. We're in Warrnambool. We're at Reid Oval in Warrnambool, which for a time, 21 years ago, was my home ground where Nestles Cricket Club do their thing. We're in the middle of our regional roadshow for Visit Victoria, where we've been driving from Melbourne to the Adelaide one day, which is in a couple of days from now. It's only about 24 hours after when we recorded the previous edition of Storytime, so it is with the vagaries of our recording schedule from time to time, but here we are to do it all again, and we're in a town that's known for its wind and its coldness, and so it is, even though cricket training has been playing out in front of us.
Yeah, they've just finished training. They've just gone off. Although there are still some stumps and paraphernalia, and of course a Sharon. There always cricket is footy is cricket. There has to be a Sharon out there for
I think they got
training.
it at the back, actually. I remember how it works. You do your fielding on the main oval and you go behind the shed bit to net, and the nets look like they've been upgraded, like everything at this ground. Behind us here, I'm not quite sure what it is that they've erected, but it's pretty plush. And there's a club next door there. I remember watching Australia play a one-day international against India. It's probably the first time I went to the pub as a 16-year-old.
Oh yeah,
when we lost a grand final just over there. I say over there, maybe over there. One of the grounds over there. It might.
All of this really works on audio too.
Yeah, I'm just
pointing
in
random directions.
Well, needless to say, this is a video too. We've got Cam Fink with us, and this might be one of those. If you're listening on the audio feed, you might want to jump over to YouTube as well. But no.
Well, I'll just interrupt to say this might be the only story time that we record in full, beautiful video. Normally, we don't bother filming them because it's too ratty and scratchy, and we're often in different places and all the rest of it. And it's really about the stories. It's about settle in with it in your ears and let it talk to you that way. So this is the cinematic version. This is the oeuvre of story time that will be videoed instead of maybe ending up on YouTube with the cartoon animation. It's actually the real thing.
It'll mean there are more mistakes in the recording. Typically with story time, we stumble a lot and have to do a number of restarts, and DC makes us sound really good. But there'll be none of that this week.
Nope.
But yeah, anyway, so early 2001, I think it was the same weekend as the Shield final. Won the semi. It was a close semi. Played over, I think, 3 days. My brother and I were in that side. Then the final, it was over 4 days, so 2 weekends. On the first weekend, I reckon we had them about 7 for 150, chasing about 210 on the first innings. And we came back on that third day, and I'd bowled pretty much the entirety of the second afternoon, but having had a 6-day break to the Saturday, I was good to go again. Bowled the whole way through, and when they needed 1 run to win, I bowled a wide, or at least it was adjudicated as a wide. So we lost on the first innings by 1 run, and the next ball I had the bloke caught in the gully. And I remember my figures. I took 5 for 66 from 40.3 overs unchanged, bowling from one end across 2 days, and we still lost the fucking grand final.
And you were the Muhammad Nawaz of the moment.
I was the Muhammad Nawaz of the moment.
Not to be blamed. You did your best. You tried your hardest.
I was but a boy of 16.
But you'll always remember the wide.
I'll always remember the wide. I don't think it was a wide. The second new ball got brought out, that was why. A bit of extra movement, and the bloke called it. And yes, at the time I didn't forgive myself, but I think I was a bit hard done by.
Surely he should have Ross Emerson'd you, in the last over with Chris Pringle bowling to Bruce Reid and said, can't give it a wide with 1 to win.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, it's hard for me to know. I'm viewing it through the prism of a 16-year-old lad who was pretty determined and pretty angry. But yeah, it was great playing here. Beautiful ground here at the Reid, where all of the Hampton League and Warrnambool League footy grand finals are played. It's like the epicentre of not just the Warrnambool sporting landscape, but the whole kind of southwest, I suppose. So there are a number of footy and cricket clubs that are based here. The East Warrnambool have club rooms there. The Warrnambool Club, Warrnambool Footy Club here as well. And then Nestles, they're known as the Factory, Nestles Cricket Club for obvious reasons. There are a bunch of other clubs.
Manufacture a lot of meth here, is it? No, it's not why.
No, that's not why. But yeah, it's a place that I look back on really fondly. And we just went past the house side. Cam took some footage of me standing out the front of that house where I watched all of the 2001 Border Gavaskar series with my little brother Ben. We were playing cricket out on the cobbled backyard in the intervals, and then watching every single ball, watching VVS and Dravid and all that played out at Calcutta when we weren't here at the club at cricket training or playing on a Saturday.
I was a bit confused driving through town, and it's a big place, Warrnambool. It's not a little country town.
It's a 40,000.
It's a regional city. By the signs advertising "Dirty Warnie." like Warrny. I was like, what is this? It's some sort of Tough Mudder type thing we figured out when we researched it, but it was just confusing for a while. Dirty Warney, like Dirty John, or some sort of podcast series that might have gone into the life and times. Who knew? Would have been a fitting tribute, I feel, to the...
Yeah, it was a cycling, sort of an endurance cycling race across southwestern Victoria. It'll probably get a run in the Warrnambool Standard, which I'm going to hold up here.
Yep.
This was the paper we'd read every morning over breakfast. Forget about what's on the front. How about the guy on the back? The guy on the back here, hat trick for great quick, champion fast bowler, Ben Boyd, has a list of achievements one can only dream of. The veteran, one of the great players of the Warrnambool and District Cricket Association, modern era, bowled Allansford Panmure. It's not Panmure. Allansford Panmure. Allansford's where the milk factory is.
We're living here in Allansford.
Where you get a milkshake from there. Bowled them to victory in Division 1 on the weekend, and in the process finally snared an individual accolade which had eluded him, a hat trick. So well played to Ben Boyd on the back of the Warrnambool Standard.
I wonder
today.
if he's related to all the other Boyds in Pomboneet, because the team of the century had 5 Boyds in it. The life members, there was probably about 30 Boyds in the life members as well, all over the honours boards. Is there a southwestern Boyd sort of deal? When
we were talking to Grant, who's the first team captain, he said that all those Boyds, his gut feel is a couple of them are incorrect. So I had to go through the archives. He's like, I don't think a couple of those blokes exist. So the team of the century, there is some debate around the veracity of the numbers that have been used to decide who fits in there. Maybe he's saying that because if they have a reboot of it, he'd be a decent chance being a 5-time premiership captain.
But he's got to be in the team of this century, so he's got another 78 years to wait before he gets a run.
We also drove past other, I guess, iconic Warrnambool landmarks. Well, we sat in the Whalers and had a beer and prepared story time, which is the thing to do. All those great pubs, the Cali and
you were convinced. You were like, there's this statue of that's an inappropriate angel or something, and we went down and had a look at it. Couldn't figure this out. Nor can
I. I mean, this is it, isn't it? Like that is, people speak of the dirty angel, and it was erected in 1925, and it's meant to. The suggestion is the woman atop the War Memorial is in an inappropriate pose. But no matter how we looked at it, we couldn't work out what people are talking about.
I mean, all I can think is that this was 1926 when this
25
was?
25. It went up. Yeah, we're going to talk about 1926 in the podcast today, by the way,
and 25.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think that your average, say, teenage boy in 1925 didn't have a lot of options. Didn't have a lot to think about, didn't have a lot to look at. Didn't have the internet, and thus, necessity is the mother of invention. When starved of the opportunity to let the mind be satisfied in the way that it wants to be, the mind has to create its own satisfaction. And so it just feels like that was maybe the only sort of female-shaped thing in the town. I mean, angels are actually beyond gender. They're sexless. They're not, they're divine creatures. They're ethereal. They don't conform to human ideas of gender. But, she looks kind of feminine. So I just suspect that all the 1925 lads in their, newsboy caps used to go, all right, governor, hooey, let's go down and look at the angel, touch ourselves in the pants. I reckon that's all they did, and they were just projecting some weird, some desperate sexual need onto the poor old angel of Warrnambool.
Right, okay. And in the other part of the history of Warrnambool, not far from here either, up in Briley, is where the grand annual is held each year, which is the steeplechase. It's the 3-day Warrnambool Races Festival, which is just a hoot. I had the great fortune of coming down here in 2015 to write about it. And in 01, when living down here, we had an Indian touring side. How good's this? It was just a government school, Brower College, but we had such an enthusiastic school principal. Mr. Stalker was his name. He was
unfortunate.
Yeah, a little bit. Duncan Stalker. But he had this, he was obsessive, big personality. I'm not sure if he's still with us. He'd be quite old if he is. He was nearing retirement then. And he engineered a fraternal relationship with a school in India, and sides would go back and forth. And the year I was here, it was the time for India to come by. So they were here during that Border Gavaskar series.
Right.
And when the May races were on, it might have been a bit later, they were here during the May races. We stopped and went up to the fence where the ground we were playing at to watch the horses run by in the marquee race of the year. Can you imagine that? Just got to stop play for 20 minutes to watch a horse race, which is a public holiday down here as well. And it was at that race in 1894 where Waltzing Matilda has its origins. I don't quite remember how this works, but Banjo Patterson had written the words to Waltzing Matilda, and then I think possibly his wife was here and had heard that piece of music played down the straight before the race commenced, and they put two and two together. It's something like that. I've probably got that wrong, and I'll cop a whack in the comments, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This is the heart of a tune that's, well, people don't say this anymore. They used to say it's the unofficial national anthem when we were kids growing up, didn't they?
Yeah, and she heard the music and said, that's it, that's the tune for a song about a suicidal sheep thief who has a problem with authority and possibly a tendency to overreact to situations. Then, you know, why not? Why not have that as a national song? It's as fitting as like trying to pretend that Jerusalem works for England or Born in the USA for that particular part of the wood. And another part of Warrnambool history, Cameron Fink has a hand in Warrnambool history. So Cam's shooting our show here today, and Cam has a remarkable ability to be connected to randomness in a way that you would never expect. For instance, Cam used to like to make T-shirts that said "want to swap T-shirts" on them, and would then travel around the world and swap shirts with people, and he'd take like 40 of them with him and just gradually amass a collection of 40 other shirts. And then when he travelled in South America, he had them translated into Spanish. ¿Quieres intercambiar camisetas? And so he swapped a shirt with a guy in like Costa Rica, I think it was, and then met the same guy that 5 years later at Meredith Music Festival wearing the same shirt that he'd swapped with him in Costa Rica. This is the kind of stuff that Cam does. So he said, 25 years ago, I designed a logo for a backpackers in Warrnambool, and I'd like to drive past and see if it's still there. And on the way down, we looked it up and found out that it had closed down. He said, oh, well, it won't be there. Maybe it's on a derelict building. Got there, nothing on the roof. The place is derelict. People are hauling things out of it. But there's a pile of garbage by the front fence, and Cam says, well, maybe we'll have a look. Digs around through the garbage, at which point the guy who owns the place comes out going,
what are you doing?
Can I help you?
What are your names?
Basically, why are you rifling through my trash?
It was Cliff it was.
Good old Cliff.
Mate, honestly. Yes!
Oh, Cam. Yes! How good.
So we explained, and you know, Cliff was a good sport. We rifled through the trash and we found this, which is the shall we say, the naive version of the artistic career.
What I like about this is Cam's, the Warrnambool Beach Backpackers. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Cam now. Wave, Cam. Well, don't wave because you'll drop the sign. He describes the picture he's drawn here as a self-portrait from 25 years ago.
It's a cartoon.
A cartoon self-portrait
of a young man with a backpack on and some regrettable hair standing in front of a badly photoshopped picture of the 12 apostles. And then there's a hand-drawn, that's Cam's handwriting that wrote the Warrnambool bit to make it look sort of like MS-DOS drop art of the era, with some sort of drop shadow going on underneath. I mean, it's charming in its own way.
It is. And the timing as well. I mean, this sign was
on the roof,
ready to be thrown away.
Yeah, but it was on the roof for 25 years, in which case he couldn't have it. And then it's been off the roof for a week, and is about to be chucked away. And somehow in that week, he happens to rock up in Warrnambool and decide on a whim to drive past, and it works out.
I think this is Cam to a T.
Yeah,
that he would put himself into a position where something special like that would happen, and then they get the drills out to.
Good old Cliff comes out with a drill, drills it out of the case, and says, "By all means, have it. It's yours."
It's meant to be. It's meant to be. That might just slide out. Yes, Cam. Yeah. Straight to the full room. I hope that ends up somewhere in your house, Cam, when we get back to Melbourne, whenever that is, after we've gone to Adelaide, which is where we're going next. This is all, by the way, for Visit Victoria, who have put us on this trip. We couldn't be happier to be doing this. We've made 112 story times before today. We made 13 seasons of this podcast, and as we said in the weekly show, some of the episodes have been, well, a lot of them have been on the Zoom line, pretty sort of, pedestrian type circumstances where you're at one end at 2 in the morning, and I'm at the other end at some time in the middle of the day in the UK.
While your daughter's asleep for the 70 minutes that you get before chaos
Exactly.
resumes.
We're doing the best we can to make it work, despite living in different countries.
It's not glamorous.
It's not.
There's nothing to shoot. You wouldn't want to see it. You wouldn't want to see it, but this one we're sitting in.
This is different.
The scorer's box, maybe, or the umpire's box.
Yeah, this is probably it might be the umpire's box during footy season, I reckon. But the sides would be to the left and the right of us. In cricket season, it might be well where the score is set up. Although it might be a little bit smaller table here for scoring. In saying that, why would there be a table here if not for it being a cricket
scoring?
Yeah, not for scoring. So.
That's what I think. I think scorers. And another thing I wanted to say is that people should get on the Lord's Taverners mailing list to find out what they're doing. They're a good charity. They're in the UK, but they do stuff outside the UK as well. They're fundamentally about trying to take cricket to mostly to kids and young people in disadvantaged communities, kids living with disability, that sort of thing, who aren't able to access social interaction as easily as others, who are left out of what else is going on in society. And all they want to do, they're not looking for donations at the moment. They just want people to sign up to the mailing list so you can find out what they're doing. And then if something comes along that you do want want to get involved with, because they do all kinds of weird and wacky and wonderful projects, ranging from the big lunches to do an online cooking class with Sunil Gavaskar or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
I
think it was Farouk Engineer was doing that.
Farouk Engineer might have done it. Climb up a mountain wearing a deep sea diving suit, all the kinds of things that you... there are things that might not interest you, but there might be one that comes along that does. And we've got a little sign-up link. It's a bit.ly link, so it's bit.ly/Tavs sign up. You just go there, put your email address in, and you don't have to give them anything. You just have to pop in your email and see what they've got going on.
Yeah, that's right. The conversations I had with them is that they just want to spread the word more widely, and we've been in partnership with the Tavs in the past, and that's worked really well. But yeah, now we want to formalise that, so please go to that sign-up link that Jeff read out, bit.ly/Tavs sign up, and you can learn about what they're doing for people from deprived areas or marginalised communities or those with disabilities. I mean, it's so wide-ranging. Mm-hmm. They do such good things. They are great members of the cricketing community, so we're proud to be back in concert with them throughout the course of the Aussie summer. bit.ly/Tavs sign up.
Righto, deep into story time. Let's get into a little bit of a Nerd Pledge. Nerd Pledge, let it ring across the oval. Nerd Pledge is the game that we play with people who listen to this show. The final word is free to access, to listen to.
This
to
is
watch.
free?
It's free. Just give it away.
Wow.
But some people, because they decide to do so, because it stirs them in some way, decide to help us make the show. And thank God they do, because otherwise it wouldn't get made. And they send through contributions that are not normal amounts of currency. They're specific amounts that relate to cricket in some way. And we have to figure out what the number means.
Good summation.
First
That's
number.
what we're doing.
Thank you.
Very good. Tidy, tight.
I've been working on that.
Tight like a tiger.
Tweet like a tiger. I've been working on that over 113 story times plus however many weekly shows we've done. I think I've got it more or less down now. What is it? A blunt and a waffle, a bong and a blitz. $4.44. That's the number we're starting with today, and two people have sent that through. It's a double header. Matt, no last name, mysterious Matt, and Pat McKeon. Patrick McKeon.
Matt, I want to get close to you.
God, remember that era when it was just like every gossip magazine was just Peter Andre's abs? It was just that era.
I live in
of
England, it still is.
Disgusting, weird abs, with like abdominal muscles that look like they're going to come over and like just gather around you and drag you down a hole in the ground and consume you for protein or something. Horrifying stuff. Matt and Pat McKeon, $4.44. Matt's just sent the number, unless I've lost your clue, Matt. Wouldn't be the first time. It's happened before. But I think it's just an open number, Adam. It's a free swing. So what do you think? What could 444 mean in a cricket context?
Okay, well, I had a bunch of stuff to start with, and I've systematically ruled them out. I've ruled out a cap number. Mm-hmm. Just going to say that for the record. There was a cap number, but I thought, no, I'm going to part with that. There's the GM Diamond 444 cricket bat on sale right now, and I thought, well, who's using that? And I thought, no, that's not fun.
That's good. How many points does the Diamond have? 4.
Yeah, that might be. They might have 4 diamonds on the blade, something like that.
Yeah.
In that vicinity. Other ideas with a number like this, I thought 4 in 4, double hat trick. Big Kurt Kampfer last year in the qualifying stages of the T20 World Cup against the Dutch, I'm pretty sure it was, if I recall correctly. He knocked them over when Ireland had their one win of that tournament. But I said to you, Jeff, how should we think of it? 4-4-4. But hang on a minute. 4 for 4. And I immediately thought of our friend Adam Zwar, who went on with me recently when you were away, and we talked about the 3 for free HBA advertisement that made him
3 for free.
3 for free. Yeah, that's right. It was 3 for free, but 3 for 3, 3 for free.
3 for free. Free for all.
That is still on YouTube, by the way. That's also free. So's our show.
Yeah. Amazing,
remarkable. So it's twitter.com at the moment. Do you know there's quite a funny little thing you can do on Twitter at the moment? I don't know who popped this out, but I can find it and send it to you if you want. You can click on a link and it'll do a
sort.
A sort for you to work out everybody who you follow who has bought the $8 blue tick. So not those that have it anyway, just those who have decided to pay to be verified. It's not
the tick
flattering.
Of shame.
There's one friend of mine, or one acquaintance of mine, let's call it, who is moving into the media industry, moving into political commentary, you could say. It wasn't verified before, is verified now. Paid $8 for the privilege. There you go. Anyway, Adam Zwar, HBA. What are we talking about? 4 for 4.
Yep.
4 for 4. Interestingly, only happened twice. And you know, Jeff, I say twice in men's cricket, international cricket, as far back as our database will allow me to look.
Okay.
But it happened in the space of 2 years, and you know how much I love that when something never happens and happens.
Then it happens heaps.
Bang bang, or happens heaps. Well, so it is for players or men specifically who've taken 4 for 4 in an international game. Most recently, it was in a Test match. The only time in a Test match by Graham Cremer. Whenever I see his name, it's spelled Graham Cremer. I always think, I think of Graham Cremer. Okay, the Graham Cremer. Graham the Creamer.
Was Graham Cremer a person? Or is it just a funny...
Zimbabwean...
No, but I mean it as Cremer rather than Cremer.
I'm just being childish.
Yeah.
I'm just being childish.
No, I just assumed it was pronounced like that from years of reading it on scorecards. I was
sure
like...
it's Cremer.
I mean, that makes sense, but I just thought Cremer, the Dairy Man. The Dairy King. I'm not sure if Bharat and I spoke on the show about the Dairy King who ran the ice cream shop in the Gulf Fort. It said the oldest ice cream shop in Gulf Fort, operating since 2013. So, he understood the importance. But yeah, when Fidel Fernando dropped around to our house one night and we were chatting to Dairy King late into the evening, and Fidel said, he said, "Sir," being politely deferential as per the culture, he said, "Sir, I feel rude referring to you as Dairy King, but what's your name?" And Dairy King said, "That's the name." Just pointed at him and said that. He's like, "Don't call me anything except Dairy King."
He said, "My name's Graham Cremer."
Yeah. So Graham Cremer could have had a dairy industry connection.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, he was creaming himself in April 2013 in Harare. Let me explain why. Zimbabwe make 389 the first time around with sports betting enthusiast, or maybe just more generally life enthusiast. I shouldn't really say that. He's had a tough time. Brendan Taylor made 171. Then Bangladesh respond with 134. Zimbabwe 227 for 7 the second time around. Taylor 102 not out. Twin tons.
Hello.
Twin tons. We all know about Andy Flowers' twin tons for Zimbabwe, but... There you go, Brendan Taylor. The bangers are set 483. They're all out for 143. And Creamer's leggies, 4 for 4 in 5.2 overs to finish it off. Kind of reminded me of the Eddie Toshak figures of 6 for 2, wasn't it?
Eddie Toshak, the big Tosh.
Not Ernie. Not Eddie. Ernie.
Oh,
Ernie Toshak.
I thought you said Ernie.
No, I said Eddie the first time
okay.
around. 6 for 2 or 5 for 2, whatever it was, when rolling through India at the Gabba in 47, which I think is the most effective spell for least runs in... It's like you can frame it up as being
the most economical
per wicket for 5 wickets with the most amount of balls bowled, something like that. Anyway,
right.
So Creamer played 19 Test matches in a tough era for Zimbabwe from 2005 until 2017. 57 wickets. They barely played Test cricket through there, which accounts for why he played so little of it. But staying with Zimbabwe and staying with 4 for 4s, let's go back 2 years earlier to 2011 in Kandy. Zimbabwe are on the other side of this one. A one-day international. Sri Lanka make 327 for 6. Dilshan, who is now the captain of the Endeavour Hills Cricket Club, Tilakaratne Dilshan, makes 144 in a 282-run stand off the top with Upal Taranga, the equal 9th highest stand in one-day cricket and the equal 6th highest opening partnership.
Endeavour Hills, more like Endeavour Dills, Sean.
Yeah, but someone told me last night that Endeavour Hills is top 3, which is Tilakaratne Dilshan, Lahuru Tiramane and Dimith Karunaratne. I've got 32 test tons between them at the moment. And David Milan coming in for provided his groin's okay.
Then they'll get Brett Deledio down for a game.
Well, when we did the game down there, it was Brett Deledio was their big star.
And Sean Grigg.
And Sean Grigg, and they've got Milan, Gale, Luckmal, fucking Brian Lara probably. What's Sobers up to? Gary Sobers. They're all playing in the T20s. I think they're like exhibition T20s at Shepley. But anyway, in the main comp. Tilakaratne Dilshan is the skipper of my old club, one of my old clubs, one of them here too. Anyway, where am I? They were sport for choice for keepers at the time, Sri Lanka, because Dilshan did that periodically. At this particular point in time, in 2011, it was still what's the other bloke called? Sangakkara, that's right. Yeah, you might have heard of him. Who was keeping. So it gave Dilshan the chance to have a little Guy Rundle. So they had so many runs to play with, and Zimbabwe a fuck all chance of chasing down 328 after Brendan Taylor again is out for 80. And he comes on in the 28th over. It reminds me, looking at the card, of when Dean Jones used to get a bowl after making a ton of the one-day international. It's like, here you go, Dino, have a bowl at the end. Bowl a couple of overs. David Boone did it a couple of times as well after starring earlier in the day. Anyway, so Dilshan ends it very quickly, 4 for 4 in 3.2 overs, and that's that. It's his best figures in one-day cricket. He took 106 wickets, to be fair, in his 330 games, and I was there for his final one-dayer, which was at Dambulla in 2016, where the capacity for Dambulla is, on paper, 18,000. 34,000 people showed up. There were people not only in the trees, but like, to say people are in the trees, like you sort of say it euphemistically, they'll climb. There was hundreds of them in the trees,
literally
maybe
in the
thousands.
Trees. Yeah.
And the stand we were in, I remember talking to Andrew Ramsey, who's been a long-time cricket correspondent, wrote the great book, The Wrong Line, and it works for cricket.com.au these days. He was genuinely worried. He's like, well, in this grandstand, as it is right now, it was David Warner's first day captaining Australia as well. I remember that. It was like 6 people in every step of every part of the aisle. He's like, what is the engineering on this building that we're in good enough to have maybe 15,000 in this stand alone? I'm not so sure about that. Thankfully it was. They played another, so Sri Lanka lose that game. Warner starts his captaincy on a good note. The next game at Dambulla 3 days later, how did they solve the problem of people climbing up the trees?
Cut the trees down.
Chopping down all the trees. By chopping down all the trees on the far side of the ground.
That's great.
Anyway.
That's a perfect solution.
So that's my answer for Matt. 4 for 4. We've got 2 people doing it: the man who creamed himself and the man who captains Never Hills.
Well, Matt, you got your money's worth, no matter what your particular answer that you had in mind was. If that's not it, if Adam didn't nail it in that particular freewheeling spree, drop us a message. You can do that on Patreon. You can do that on the Discord chat page, and let us know how we're going. Now, Patrick McKeon, whose name I always like to read out in this kind of accent, which
he's done well to get back up the queue. Has he got a little toe? 444.
Well, it's a double header. It's a double header. It's the only way you can.
Don't poo, and you're gonna go home on your own. If you go home on your own.
I do not know what's happening here at all. I've completely lost track of this.
The Just Jones.
So if the only way you can skip the queue on the final word is to have the same number as someone higher in the queue, and then we do them together in case one person's answer is also the other person's answer, which it won't be in this case, I feel pretty sure. Because Pat said this is returning to my previous theme of clues that have a Scottish flavour, which means, yes, 444, it's probably the answer is Mark Denness, Scottish champion, England captain, cap number 444. Yep. But Pat, if you want me to talk about Mark Denness, I'll do that another time. He's got a great story, but it's not what I want to talk about today. Because today I went back and watched all of the highlights from the Scotland-England One Day International in 2018.
Great.
And I don't want to talk about that game, because what a game it is. It's a one-off ODI. It's England saying, okay, you little champions north of the border, we'll pop up there and beat you once in the next 10 years just to say that we did something for associate cricket. And we'll send you in. We'll win the toss and send you in. Let's get this over quickly, knock you over for 85 and chase them down in 4 overs.
Get on the piss.
Yeah. So nothing to lose. Kyle Kurtzer and Matthew Cross come out to open, and they fucking lay into the English. They bring up the 100 in 79 balls. Why not? Just go and hog wild. They're facing Mark Wood. They're facing David Willey. It's not like they're facing chumps with the ball. Kurtzer makes 58. Cross makes 48. And then they both get out in quick succession, but then Callum McLeod comes in, his greatest day. Absolutely annihilates them. 140 from 98 deliveries. Richie Berrington and George Munsey come in and make runs after that in support and afterwards. And they get to 371 for 1 in their 50 overs, Scotland, right? Outstanding score, but it's the Grange. It's a small ground. You've got an outmatched attack compared to the quality of the English, and the English are making a habit of running down 300-plus scores against anybody at this point. So you're still thinking, well, England should probably get this, and it looks that way when Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy come out. They're opening the batting. They're at their peak together as a double act, and Bairstow equally goes crazy. His third century in consecutive innings in one-day cricket. He makes 105 off 59 balls, if you don't mind, just to start things off. The partnership that they finish up with is 129. Jason Roy makes 34 of those at a run a ball, and Bairstow does the rest of the damage, right? So, look, they're 129 in 76 balls at that point. They're comfortably ahead of the asking rate. It looks like they'll get it. And even after the 2 openers get out, then Alex Hales and Joe Root go on, take them all the way up to 220 for 2. So at that point, they've got 23 overs left. So they've got 138 balls to make 152 runs with 8 wickets in hand. Should do it comfortably with the kind of quality England have got. And then, bit of a mix-up, Root gets run out, and over the next 10 overs, Owen Morgan hits a catch to mid-wicket, Hales cuts one to point, Willie, top edge, caught behind, across those next 10 overs, and so then they need 96 from 81. It's getting a little bit squeezier. And then Moeen Ali gets together with Liam Plunkett, and they put on 71 of the runs that they need together. They're going nicely. They're hitting plenty of sixes over the leg side, and they get the equation down to 25 needed off 28 balls. England's game again. And then Moeen holes out, hitting down the ground, caught on the boundary. Plunkett keeps going, gets to the last couple of overs, 12 balls, 11 runs to get. He hits one down the ground, takes the first run, wants the second run, gets Adil Rashid run out at the non-striker's end. So they're 9 wickets down. They've got 10 runs to get, and then Plunkett takes the single with Mark Wood. Then Mark Wood gets a single, and Plunkett takes another single. I mean, surely at this point you've got to be trying to monopolise the strikers, Plunkett.
Sure, yeah.
And then it's Safyan Sharif, in-swinging Yorker, tailing in. Go and watch the replays of that. Beautiful. Smashes him on the shoe. Plum in front. 7 balls to go. LBW. England bowled out in the 49th over. They're 6 runs short. Scotland win.
It was a brilliant day for a few reasons, and the rain's about to pour down. We're going to take a break and record the second half somewhere else, I suspect. 3 things. Brilliantly called by Daniel Norcross on TMS. Second thing, Cal McLeod, who we spoke about then, announced the international retirement last week, so fitting that we're talking about him. Here he played in 5 World Cups, 88 one-day internationals, 62 T20 internationals, and said in his statement when he retired that he was inspired by watching the 99 World Cup against Australia. And that doesn't tell you anything about well, that tells you everything, isn't it? Exposure, visibility, grows associate cricket, and that was all. That's all I wanted to say because it's raining now.
So
and one more thing. That was the day Bangladesh beat India to win the Women's Asia Cup.
Oh right,
yeah, that was a special, significant day for Associate Nations.
I need to note something else as well.
I'm saying.
One is that the YouTube. The automatic subtitles are extremely funny for these highlights because they can't understand any of the names. My favourite one is when I think the actual commentary says Midoff should get that. He does. He takes the catch and Bairstow's gone. The subtitles say Midoff should get that. He dies and he takes the catch and Bear's dog is gone. Bear's dog is gone. Right. Anyway, why is this 444? I hear you ask, because I haven't actually explained that. For me, this is all about the Scottish openers laying into the bowling. Almost all through the offside, a lot through cover, a bit through point, over mid-off. The 50 for Scotland comes up in the 8th over, and I reckon this is what gives Scotland the confidence to say that we're gonna take them on today. It comes up in the 8th over when Matthew Cross is facing David Willey. Deft touch opens the face, glides one down a deep third. Fast hands, picks one up over fine leg, and then a crisp cover drive to the fence. 3 balls, milestone up, 4-4-4. The only time in the match that somebody hits 3 fours in a row.
Oh, very good, Jeff. I like that. Well pieced together. Thank you to Patrick McKeon and to Matt for getting us going. I think it would be sensible for you and I, Jeff, to relocate. For the rain is going to keep.
Now.
It's stopped now, but it will be back. We'll go inside. We'll do the rest of this inside. Let's do a little bit of. You're listening to The Final Word. I'm Jeremy Coney. Keep listening.
Keep listening.
Do that.